Here are my thoughts on therapy. So I've tried it. I've tried it twice. So the first time I said, you know what, maybe it was just not the right fit, and it was a woman. Uh, and this was at a time where I literally thought I needed it. I felt I hadn't done it before. I said, why not? I'm insured. What a luxury. I decided, sure, why not? Let me go ahead and see what this whole thing is about. So let me give you my mind frame at the time. So I had gotten to a point where I had gotten stuck, and I just felt like I had this thought, and I articulated as such, and it was simply that I wish I wasn't born. And it wasn't that I wanted to end my life, but I just felt like there was a lot of unfinished business, if you will, that I hadn't dealt with. And so I figured, let me go ahead and try. And I went into it knowing that whatever sort of depression I was having, it was not going to be permanent. It was temporary. So I knew it going in. But frankly, I didn't really get much out of it, right? So whatever, stopped, kind of just didn't go back. And then I figured I'd try it a second time a few years later. This time with a man. But the thing that I think I came away with ultimately, and this is, I think, therapy for men. For women, I can't speak on that. Excuse me, allergies are killing me. I can't speak on that. But I can tell you this: as a guy, ruminating and venting can only get you so far. I think the best way to get out of a slump, if you're stuck, if you're feeling downtrodden, if you're depressed, even, really the only way out of it is action, right? Movement, flow. There is no talking your way out of a situation, right? If something sucks, it's because it is, right? And so what you should do is you shouldn't even lament depression. You should actually champion it, take it on, and actually appreciate it because it's your body and your brain telling you that something needs to change. Things are awry. We need to get back on the saddle and we need to find a way. And that's actually a very healthy reaction. So I think to pretend like that won't hit you eventually is futile. It will inevitably. And I think you should appreciate it and accept it for what it is. It's an opportunity to make things different. So I think if someone were to get stuck in a depressed mindset, it ultimately would come down to that, which is that did you manage to change your circumstances? Did you alleviate yourself in some way? Did you change environments? Did you do something to shake things up? I think ultimately depends on that. And the other thing is too is going to therapy, talking about your problems. All of that is you're being contemplative, right? You're reflecting. And I don't think it's beneficial to reflect when you're still in the game, right? At the end of the day, you're still playing, right? You're still trying to figure things out. You don't have a script. There is nothing written in stone. So you need to figure it out on the fly. And that's an important part. The other thing is too is trying to heal all your trauma, frankly, will dull your edge. I don't think it's beneficial. I think you should hold on to it, keep it in your pocket, use it as fuel because you're gonna need it. All right. When your back is against the wall and you feel like you need to pull something out, that is where you use it. That is the fuel. It could be something so insignificant. I'll tell you what, just on the physical realm, right? I remember one time I was on a hike and I was really trying to keep up with my buddy who was like a real hiker. He had like hiking boots on. I had some Nikes on, and I was trying to keep up, and it was like a real challenge for me because it was very inclined, and I knew that any slip, and I was a goner essentially. But I in those moments is when I try to pull into the deepest sort of negative emotions that I had, and I wanted to use that as fuel, and I did. Right, I reached the summit, if you will, and it was worth it, right? And nothing happened. I survived, luckily, right? But that is what I mean is like in those moments where you're most doubting yourself and you most don't have any more energy, you gotta dig deep, and that's where you can find that negative stuff, the trauma, if you will, and use that as fuel to move yourself forward in whatever endeavor. Um, the other thing too is if you let go of all your traumas, quote unquote, right, all the bad things that have happened to you, you sort of lose a lot of your energy to move forward, right? The other thing is, at the end of the day, speaking to someone and telling them your problems really isn't the best way to go about confronting them because the thing is, whatever problems you have and whatever the solutions are, everything is inside of you regardless. There is nothing that someone else can give you. Matter of fact, most of the strategies and techniques that he gave me was stuff that I had already read about. So it wasn't like there was nothing about the situation, nothing about the talks that really helped me in that regard. Um, and if anything, you should maybe look for friends or mentors to kind of give you that same process, because that's really what that was essentially. Therapy sessions were essentially just me figuring things out on my own and using him as just someone to listen to. Regardless, I'm not gonna shit on therapy. Like, I think it's still something that you should try, give it a go. But I don't think that if you think that you're going into therapy, you're somehow gonna solve all of your problems. I think you're sadly mistaken, and I think you're looking at it at the wrong way. I merely did it because it was an experiment. Um, and I wanted to make sure I was open minded. I wanted to make sure, like, if it wasn't a big deal, if it wasn't gonna do any damage, then why not try it? But I just think for guys, I think for most guys, really the only way out of a bad situation is making something out of it, doing something with it, using it to turn yourself into a monster, essentially. Um, you shouldn't want to heal, quote unquote. I think healing is probably one of the worst things that you could do. I think you can save that for later. Um, I definitely think that you need to use it, like I said, and I emphasize this a lot. You need to use this as energy. There's always times where you can, if you're putting yourself in enough challenging situations where you're gonna need to dig deep, you need to pull something out, and this is when you use it, right? Those moments, those treacherous moments, is when you most need that, right? And so yeah, so at the end of the day, you need to reconsider, right, what you're hoping to get out of therapy. All right, and but yeah, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try, but don't expect it to be a panacea to heal and to change your entire life, because I don't think that's what it's gonna do for you, frankly. But anyhow, I'll see you in the next one.